ladies and gentlemen of Vandebilt, and welcome to Terrier Talk. This is episode 4, the second stream. As of right this second, there is not many people watching, so if you are watching this in post afterwards, keep in mind that I'm pretty sure every week after this, I will have a stream going on at 8 p.m. Sunday nights talking about sports, like our subject matter is every week. But it's going to be streamed 8 p.m. Sunday night. Be here. This is going to be more of just a video shot in one take because there are few people here, but keep that in mind. Come next week, because this is when we will be. Another thing about this week is this was a very busy week for myself. As I was talking about last week, I was in the play this week, as well as I had a lot of things for other extracurriculars. So I had very little time to work on this before today. Hopefully I'll be able to put more time into it in future weeks. But as of now, this is what I have for this week. There's not very much exterior stuff this week. Hopefully I'll be able to start adding that into the week that we have coming up, as well as in the future. But right now, all I'm worried about is getting this video out. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the review of last week's games. Beginning with boys soccer, we took on St. Charles on Monday, and unsurprisingly, a 7-0 victory in our favor. 7-0 victory in our favor. 7-0 victory came out in our favor, of course. And not very surprising, St. Charles was not very good. They're still not very good. And we just sort of reaffirmed past notions. However, the game after that against Morgan City on Tuesday was not nearly as good for us. It was actually rather concerning how the game went. We were very heavily favored, in my opinion. I thought we were going to win this game pretty handily, the same way that we beat St. Charles the day before. However, we go into the game and we end up only winning 3-2 on senior night against Morgan City, a rather weak team. That's very concerning. And we'll see if this has to do with anything going into next week, but I'm okay with it is concerning that we didn't play as consistently as we probably should have in this game, but considering what was surrounding it this week, I think we'll be okay. Because the reason I say that is, later on in the week, on Friday, we went to Hannon and probably played our best game of the entire season. It was a 5-2 victory. This is extremely good. Hannon is a team that is pretty statistically similar to us. I talked about how winnable but not easy to win this game would be last week. Huge playoff implications, of course, us being in the same bracket, same division. And this is huge. That's a huge win. Like I said, maybe the best we've played all season from what I've seen. Which, again, so many implications. It's going to be the main event of this week. I'll be talking about it in just a minute. But all of these games for boys soccer are leading into something that's very important for next week. Moving on to girls soccer, I apologize because just like this week, last week, I had a lot of things going on and I actually missed a couple of games. I hope I did not do the same thing this week. Last week, I missed a couple of games, including the Mount Carmel game on Monday that the girls competed in. This game, I guess a quick preview, Mount Carmel's very good. I talk about national rankings a lot in big girls soccer games because it's relevant, unlike in all the other sports where, our girls basketball team is great. Our girls basketball team is very good, but they're not nationally good. Our boys basketball team is very promising, but we're not nationally good. The boys soccer team, despite coming off of a state championship season, isn't nationally good. The girls soccer team is nationally good. St. Scholastica is nationally good. Nationally great. St. Scholastica still, I don't think, has a loss this season. Mount Carmel, its numerical standing in the nation is notable. We're still sitting, I think, in the top 50. Mount Carmel is sitting at number 111, which is, again, 111 out of 20,000. Extremely impressive. And Mount Carmel is one of the best teams in the nation, in the state. And they showed it against us. However, we showed our grit, our heart, our why we're back-to-back-to-back state championship appearing team with how this game went. At halftime, we were down 2-0, and Mount Carmel seemed to be on a roll and seemed to be showing why they were such a good team. But we showed our heart, we showed our grit, and we came back to tie the game 2-2. Mount Carmel, I think, has 9 ties at this point in the season, which is impressive in itself. They're 14-4-9, whereas we are, I think, I'm not going to get the, I didn't keep the record down. I apologize, but we are it's a very strong record. It's somewhere along the line of like 15-5-3 or 15-4-3 is 4-4. The point is, I apologize. That was rambling for a very long time. The point is, we had a very strong performance in the second half. A lot of heart was shown in that game against Mount Carmel, leading to that tie 2-2. We had a much stronger full game performance, however, against Morgan City the next day on senior night. The boys underperformed. The girls performed just the way we thought they would perform. A mercy rule victory, if I recall correctly, 8-0 against Morgan City on senior night. And we followed up that impressive showing against Morgan City with an impressive showing against Edie White later on in the week on Friday, 5-1. That locks up our regular season. We're going to be, again, if I have my sources correct, we are going to be number 1 in the district. We will be number 1 in the district. We'll also be number 1 in the state going into playoffs. And I will preview that playoff game next week because we will face the winner of, we will face the winner of David Thibodeau and South Beauregard next week. I will preview that game as well as the girls soccer playoffs in general next week. Moving on to girls basketball, we had an interesting week. 2 district games, as it will be for the next couple of weeks in basketball, both girls and boys. We started the week hosting Edie White, just like we went to Edie White last week on Tuesday. We hosted Edie White this week on Tuesday, and it was a very similar game, another low-scoring game. We won this time 38-32. We won by, I think 12 last time, and we won by 6 this time. We're just a bit of a better team than Edie White is, and this extended our win streak to 8 straight wins, which is extremely impressive. And unfortunately, this streak of winning ended on Friday against South Terrebonne. We hosted South Terrebonne, and it was a painful 31-14 loss. I've seen games like this before. I've seen the girls basketball team play like this before. I unfortunately was not at the game, but I can tell from the score what this game was like. If you didn't have a chance to watch the game, but you did have a chance to watch some of their earlier games against the likes of Terrebonne and Helen Cox at the Jack Becker Classic, you will know that this team has the tendency they will always play great defense. Our girls basketball team will always play phenomenal defense. We give up like 35 points per game this season. Absolutely amazing. The offense is nowhere near as consistent, however. There are just some days where just cannot put the ball through the hoop. We lost to Helen Cox, if I recall correctly, 37-25, and then we lost to Terrebonne 30-25. And putting that up with our 31-14 loss to South Terrebonne, there's a bit of a pattern. There are basically 2 teams that show up. There's either the team that is a bunch of crowbar-wielding giants that crush the competition every time they play, both defensively and offensively, that we see oftentimes. We saw it against Ascension Catholic. We saw it in some ways, not a great win, but still wins against Edie White these last couple of weeks, and the win against Morgan City last week. Or we see the team that will still play great defense, will still be ferocious, but will not be able to score at times and not be able to score throughout the game. And that's what we saw here, unfortunately. And that means as well, the 8-game win streak that had been built up over, I think, a month. The last time that they lost might not have been this year, has unfortunately, sadly ended. That is, it is. I've said this word about 4 times in this sentence. It's unfortunate, but hopefully the momentum that we've gathered out throughout the month will be able to continue into February and go on to compete well in the district. The district obviously isn't over. We're still 2-1 in district. We have 2 huge games next week, as I'll talk about in a little bit regarding girls basketball, but it's an unfortunate loss. It's a loss that will sting for a while. Moving on to boys basketball, we had an interesting week. I was sadly not able to make either of the 2 games. They were both later on in the week, Thursday and Friday. We played Archbishop Shaw. I think we hosted Archbishop Shaw on Thursday with a 59-41 loss. They outperformed us. I got to look at the box score a little bit. They were just a better team for 4 quarters. We tried our best. It happens. It happens. And they were the better team. However, South Terrebonne was not the same case. I do not know. So first off, with the South Terrebonne game, I do not know how I forgot to preview this game last week. I apologize because I previewed the girls' basketball game against South Terrebonne, which was the same day, the same venue, but I forgot to talk about the boys' basketball game against South Terrebonne. Sorry. I just forgot. I didn't notice it. I'm sorry. However, I wish I could have gone to this game because apparently it was great. We ended up winning the game 42-41. I know nothing about the game other than the score, which was a 42-41 win. It's huge. It's our first district game. District game. I see we actually have a few people talking in the chat. Thank you for that. One thing I talked about this last week. One thing I enjoy a lot about live streaming, and I want to do more with live streaming, is interact with the audience. Unfortunately, the question that was asked, I will not really be able to answer because it's a rather inappropriate question. So if you're looking through the chat in the future, watching this in post, just beware of that. I do not take responsibility for that person. Sorry. I will not answer the question, however. But Jonathan, thank you for the acceptance of the apology. I'll go ahead and finish up with the South Terrebonne game. It was a 42-41 victory. I'm going to probably next week, or maybe in a separate video. I'm going to next week in a separate, or probably in a separate video. I'm going to talk about this game just as a separate game, as just itself self-contained, because it's probably something that's worth reporting. It was a 42-41 great victory at home that I will want to bring up at some point. However, right now I just don't have the resources to be able to talk about it sufficiently. So all I have for now is a 42-41 great game, great win for Vandebilt. That is it for the results in review for this week. I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next week preview. And this is a transition week because girls soccer, like I talked about, is done for the regular season. Boys soccer has 1 game, and we're basically just in district for boys and girls basketball for the next couple of weeks. And we're going to start talking about softball and baseball and track. I know track starts practices this week. Baseball starts baseball, I think, is starting up this week. Softball is starting up. They actually have a scrimmage this week on Saturday. And like I said, track starts practices on Monday. So we're going to begin talking about those spring sports. Hopefully I'll be able to talk more about next week, maybe previewing those spring sports more in depth. Right now, I just don't have the time to, unfortunately. I'll look into that more next week, however. Moving on, we have junior high sports. Just junior high boys basketball has a lot this week. They travel to Oakland on Monday. It's a rematch from a few weeks ago. I was able to make the original game. I will probably not be able to make this game. Pretty big revenge game. We lost by 12, 51-39 last time, which hopefully we'll be able to come back and get a win against the ever strong Oakland basketball team. We also, we also host. I can't speak today. We also host Evergreen on Wednesday, which is also important for district implications. Probably will decide a spot in district, and then they finish the week with the parish tournament. Then we have girls and boys basketball. We'll start with girls basketball. They actually have the same schedule, traveling to South Lafourche on Tuesday and traveling to Ellender on Friday. I'll start with the South Lafourche game. And both of these games, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. These teams are good. These teams are really good. South Terrebonne was really good. South Lafourche is really good. Ellender's really good. They're all great teams, and they're all going to be very tough outs for our girls this week. If you look at the record against common opponents, which is something I bring up very frequently on this show, it's not good. We've struggled against or lost to teams like Terrebonne, H.L. Bourgeois, St. James, E.D. White, South Terrebonne last week, Thibodaux. These are all teams that South Lafourche beat very, very handily. They don't struggle against these teams. They only have one loss of the games that I mentioned, which is against Thibodaux, and it was a much better loss than ours. They beat teams that we beat by 2, 3, 4 points by 20. It's concerning, I guess is the best way to put it. They're also the best. They're one of the best in the class in rankings. They're ranked pretty high in the state as well. They are great on offense in girls basketball. This takes a little bit of an explanation because the number isn't going to sound that high without context. In girls basketball, scoring 50 points is a huge milestone in teams, even in strong wins. They'll look, if they're at 47 points with a minute left, they're going to try to get 2 buckets or hit a 3, get to 50 points, because that's how important that barrier is, that milestone is. Winning 49-41 doesn't look nearly as good as winning 50-41. 50 is sort of the benchmark, and it's an extremely prestigious, I guess is the best way to put it, score to get to, specifically in girls high school basketball. South Lafourche, averages 52.9 points per game, which is an extremely impressive margin isn't the correct word, points per game number. Now, that being said, the game is winnable. They put up 52.9 points per game. We give up 35 points per game. They have not played a defense as good as us maybe all season. And it's going to come down to which girls basketball team is going to show up. Is it the team that scores baskets or is it the team that doesn't? We'll have to see. If we can put up points, this game's winnable. And that mantra is probably twice as true for the Ellender game later on in the week. We traveled to Ellender on Friday, and pretty much all the things I just said about South Lafourche are as true or more true with Ellender. All those opponents I listed, most of the opponents I just listed, that we struggled against, that South Lafourche was great against. Ellender was also great against. Terrebonne, St. James, E.D. White, South Terrebonne, H.L. Bourgeois. They've played better than we have in general. They have those strong wins. They're ranked even higher than South Lafourche, despite not having as strong of a record. They average 10 more points per game than us. South Lafourche averages 52.9. They average 54 points per game. And they are 10-3 at home and undefeated in district play at this point, including a win over South Lafourche. But, and this is a very important thing, they score 54 points per game. They give up 48 points per game. They're going to put up points. That's the team. That's who they are. They're going to put up points. But we need to be able to score on them because they're going to give up points. This game is going to come down to whether or not we put the ball through the basket. It's that simple. It just comes down to scoring points. And if we are able to do it this week, we could come away with 2 absolutely huge victories for the girls basketball, not just team, but for the girls basketball program as a whole. Moving on, we also have boys basketball. Boys basketball has the same 2 games this week, traveling to South Lafourche on Tuesday and Ellender on Friday. We're actually pretty statistically similar to South Lafourche. We differ in points per game by less than 1 point. We differ in win percentage by about 10%. They have a better record. We have a better record in district. They're higher ranked, but not by that much. This game's winnable. It's a relatively even matchup. The one thing that is a major cause for concern is the one thing that is a major cause for concern in every single game we play against South Lafourche, specifically when we travel to South Lafourche. And that is that South Lafourche is an absolutely tough crowd to play against. Their crowd is always on fire, especially against the Vandebilt teams, especially at those Vandebilt games. It is a raucous place to play, and it is an extremely tough place to get a win out of. We will just have to weather that storm, both in the boys and in the girls. But, in specifically the boys I've seen, it's a tough win. Now, the Ellenders matchup is pretty similar to the girls' Ellender matchup. They put up an obscene number of points, 64 points per game, their boys basketball team. Then they give up 55 points per game. They're crazy high ranked. They're always, look, it's Ellender basketball. They're always going to be a great team. They always are a great team. But they give up a bunch of points, and we're going to have to score against them. They have weaknesses. They're weaker at home than they are away. We are playing them at home. It's a winnable game, I think, honestly. But if we want to have a chance, if we want to even hang in this game, if we don't want it to be a blowout by the second quarter, have to put points up. We have to score with them. We have to run with them. They will probably be bigger, faster, stronger than us. This is Ellender basketball. But we have to play smart. We have to score the basketball. We have to score points. And we just have to hang in it for 4 quarters. And honestly, the game's winnable. I'm not saying we're definitely going to win the game or anything. But it's possible. We can win it. The game's winnable. That is going to be it for basketball this week. For soccer, there is only one game this week, and it is the main event slot, ladies and gentlemen. That is, of course, the huge boys soccer game against E.D. White on Tuesday nights. Everything is on the line here. District championship, check. Playoff seedings, check. Rivalry. This is a rivalry game. A huge rivalry game at that. All of this leads up to the biggest game of the season for boys soccer. Now, when we traveled to E.D. White 4 weeks ago, it was the co-main event along with the girls' E.D. White game the same week of the first episode of Terrier Talk. And the matchup, obviously, the numbers are going to be very similar. They're still slightly better records, slightly better goals per game against common opponents. We can look at that. Similar as last time. However, a couple of differences. The last time that we talked about this game, I discussed that there were district implications on the line. This time, however, if I'm correct, I think I got this right when I was looking at it. E.D. White with a win locks up sole ownership of the district. But with a Vandebilt win, it's a co-district championship. If I'm incorrect about that, I'm sorry, but if I did my research right, that is the case. An E.D. White win, they win the district. A Vandebilt win, we're co-district champs. The district championship is on the line this week. Tuesday night at Vandebilt. We lost last time, but it was a good game. Close game. And this time, it's at Vandebilt. This time, it's under the lights, Tuesday night at Vandebilt. Biggest game of the season. The crowd will be huge. The last home game of the season before playoffs. And the stakes are high. Everything about this game. Big game feel. Huge rivalry game. And man, it is going to be fun to watch. District implications, rivalry implications, playoff seeding implications. Not much more you could ask for in a soccer game this week. That is going to be it for today. I will see you guys next time. I think this time will work better in general, and hopefully I'll be able to spend more time on these next week. Oh, it's Monday night, isn't it? Is it? No. It's not Monday night. It's Tuesday night. I could have sworn. It's either Tuesday night or I read... I could have sworn it was Tuesday night. If not, I apologize. Because I really thought it was Tuesday night. No, it's... Wait. No, it's Tuesday night. Oh, okay. Okay, this is an important bit of news, and we are getting this. I am getting this, on right now. Breaking news when it comes to Vandebilt boys soccer. This will be the main event. This will be the conclusion. Boys soccer tomorrow night. I will more than likely be there, and I will see you guys next week. Huge game, district playoff rivalry. Nothing more you would want from a boys high school soccer game. I'll see you guys next week. Terrier Talk. Next week, same time, same channel.